So I warmly welcome two key people today who are working on this product and who will reveal the story of NuiCare and its design process to you. So warm welcome to Shilu Mistry. She is Chief Product Officer at NuiCare here with us. Hi, Shilu, how are you?
Hi, Ake. Thank you. Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you. And also along with us is Miles Johnson. He is the experience lead for AI and innovation at the design consultancy Ming Labs. Hi, Miles. Over to Amsterdam.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
It's wonderful to have both of you here, and we're looking forward to discover more about your work. So without further ado, take it away from here.
Thank you, Ake. Thanks for having us here. Let me just share my screen. So thank you, Ake, for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences with you and the entire design community here. We were all really thrilled and excited as we won the UX Design Award, Nui, together with Ming Labs. And UX experience is really important for us. It's important for everybody, but especially important for us in supporting our caregivers. As I'll highlight in a minute, our caregivers have very little time. And so having a very intuitive user experience is very critical because they don't have any time, and we need to make sure that we're giving them the time back and we're reducing their burdens as much as possible. And with the AI enhancement, for us, great trending technology, but for us, it's really so that we can really harness it and provide more personalized experience for our users, because every care journey is going to be different from one another. So we're really excited that we went through this journey with Ming Labs and happy now to kind of present this to you. So first of all, who are we? As Ake mentioned, I'm Chief Product Officer at NuiCare. Myself and the entire team at Nui are responsible for the product. So the product is not only an app, but we also provide human services, meaning we have like care experts who are also speaking with our caregivers to give them advice and get them the right support that they need. So that's who I am, and I hand it over to Miles and he can introduce himself.
Thanks, Shilu. Yeah, so I'm Miles. I'm working at Ming Labs, the innovation agency, and yeah, we were really excited to partner with Nui on this project. Like you said, not only for the trending technology and what that means for design, but also the really pressing topic, and Shilu will show you the numbers. So to be involved in something really meaningful is always important for a designer, I think. Over to you, Shilu.
Okay, great. So it wasn't just me and Miles that were involved in this entire process. There was a whole team behind it from Ming and from Nui. We had our UX UI designers who were very involved in the entire process, but we also had brought in content experts. So as I'd mentioned, we have care experts in our team. Even our product owner is a care expert herself, as well as our chief marketing officer who spent a lot of time as a caregiver, and they were very crucial in the role of working with Miles and his team together to ensure that we had the right content, that we had the right information, that the features were being developed for the caregivers from an expert point of view. So it was a great collaboration with many experts in mind. And not only did we have them, we also have a great team of developers also on board and marketing experts who all kind of worked very integral in this entire process. So I just want to give a little shout out to everybody who was involved, because it was very intense 9 months of working together. So now I want to explain what is NuiCare, who are we, how did we get started, what kind of problem are we solving? So NuiCare was founded a couple of years ago by our two co-founders, Marcus Muller and Chris Ehl. They got together and they realized, they're having, they realize it's a profound responsibility to take care of people in need, and seeing that their parents are getting older, they ask themselves, you know, why aren't there more innovative technologies to support? And there should be. There's a big gap in the market right now. And so they decided, okay, well, let's try and find 50 families that are going through the same situation and are open to new technology. And we'll found a company. And that's exactly what they did. So that's they were able to find and validate with 50 companies, and they put themselves together and they said, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to make sure that we are addressing these challenges. So our mission at NUI is really to support and relieve the burden of those who are involved in care. And we really believe that when we support them in many different ways, that they can improve the care and well-being of the people that they're caring for. Oftentimes, there's a lot of stress on the person who's being cared for, but if we make it easier for the caregivers, it really will show an improvement in the overall well-being. And this is something that's currently missing in the market. So what are the problems that we're solving and the challenges that caregivers are facing today? So family caregivers, they really play a huge role in the healthcare system. When we talk often about healthcare, we don't talk about the caregivers. We talk about the doctors and the nurses and the patients themselves. But without the family caregivers, you know, the people who are being cared for would not be in a good state that they are in. But nonetheless, they face many challenges. So they have insufficient professional support. They're in financial strain, and they have a lot of physical and emotional demands on a daily basis. And often they're even leading to burnout. Some statistics from Germany alone, 80% of care recipients are being cared for by a family or friend. They are not sitting in a nursing home. And I think this is the case not only in Germany, but also globally. A lot of people want to stay at home and not go somewhere else. So that means that there are people who are caring for them. So about 5 million people are taking care of somebody in need of care. They're spending anywhere from 1 to 4, even 8 hours of their day on really taking care of somebody. That means that people are going through burnout. 40 to 60% are suffering burnout and depression. We did a survey of our users about a year and a half ago, and we found out that of them, 80% were mid to high level of caregiver burnout, and that really was alarming for us. And that means that they're going to be out of work for some time. They're going to be out of work, and that's costing companies money. So it's about 14,000 euros per year that companies are losing from valuable employees. And finally, 12 million euros or 12 billion euros are being unclaimed of care benefits. There are a lot of care benefits that are out there that can help support caregivers that they don't know about. And these are going unclaimed, and they should be using them. So what is the difference between the medical care and home care? So I'd mentioned it before, a lot of focus is on medical care, and there's a lot of digital healthcare apps out there trying to support. And on the left side, you see, you know, when you're cared for in a hospital, you have the supervision, the treatment, available rehab, social interaction, you're compliant with medication, you're safe, and a lot of costs are being covered by the insurance companies. When somebody's being cared for at home, it's a completely different situation. You have limited resources, you have reduced capacity to monitor and supervise, because if you're caring and you're working, you don't have that opportunity to really be there all the time. The care recipients are isolated and depressed and alone. Caregivers are giving a lot of time and burnt out. There's limited rehabilitation, medication management, safety, and emergency response is a huge challenge. And so those are all these are the big discrepancies that we're seeing not only in Germany, but the entire world when it comes to medical care and home care. The typical scenario is you have someone who's a main caregiver, oftentimes in a sandwich family situation. They're taking care of a loved one, but they have their own family and responsibilities to take care of. Usually the caregivers are female from the age of 45 to 65. They often are also working. They're working maybe full time. They start to have to take more time off to care for somebody. They move from full time to part time, and even quitting their job essentially to take care. And that puts them also then at financial risk. All those things don't need to happen because there is support out there, and we want to help the caregivers so they're not in this situation. And the abundance of responsibility is huge. There was a recent study conducted by MIT Aging Labs in the US, but it's very common here as well, that there are so many responsibilities, takes a lot of time and a lot of stress for them. And up until now, there hasn't been one comprehensive solution available for these caregivers. And that's why we have come in to try and solve this problem. So NUI is here to provide a solution for caregivers. So we want to empower and equip them to provide them with the support that they need to first understand, okay, what are they eligible for in terms of care benefits financially and aids? Also to help them access the resources and support services that are available to them locally. And then help them manage and organize their care responsibilities, streamline administrative tasks, and also improve communication. And I think with all that together, we can really alleviate their burdens and, again, really help enhance the quality of care of whoever they're caring for. So what we started with is we have this NUI 1.0, as you see here. That's what we started with before starting with Ming. And the key features that we offered at the time was really mainly to inform the users, give them the information that they need to know what they have available to them in terms of resources and benefits, but also to guide them in their journey, from a legal advice or tips and tricks to help them really care for somebody, as well as helping them apply digitally for these care services. So this is what we had in the beginning about a year ago with NUI, and that did help to some degree. And then we know we wanted to move beyond that. We want to really aim to address all of the challenges throughout the care journey. And we're continuously looking at the entire journey and seeing how we can support throughout the process. And it's not linear. Caregivers jump back and forth. And along the way, we want to help them emotionally because it is very kind of a taxing journey. So this is where the collaboration with Ming Labs come in. They really helped us really take that next level, bring NUI to that place where we want to go. And what we realized is that in order so that we can help more caregivers, we need to scale. We realized we couldn't scale on our own and we needed partners. So we have been talking to a lot of very well-known leading industry players in Germany that can help us scale. But that kind of meant that we needed to think, okay, how can we do that together with them? And Ming played a really pivotal role to help us. So one thing that we needed to do is really enhance the app from the functionality perspective, but also give it like a premium aesthetic. After we did a market research with over 100 or 1,000 caregivers with one of our partners, we were able to validate key functionalities, but that meant integrating new features, refining existing ones, while remaining or sustaining a user experience. So the challenges we faced was, one, adding valuable features. So here's a demonstration of all the features we now have in the app. So what you see in the kind of like the dark blue are the features that we had. What you see in the pink or fuchsia are the ones that we added. We knew that they were valuable from the validation from our research, but how do we make it more seamless and so it's not too overwhelming for the user? The other thing we wanted to make sure of is that we sustain a personalized, we ensure personalized guidance throughout the way. And with Ming, they really encouraged us with the AI and where we really want to go and where we've been wanting to go for a while. And not only answering questions, but being proactive, offering guidance, next steps, and even alerts before the caregiver is even thinking about it themselves. So that's where we really want to go with our AI, to be able and also to personalize it based on their care situation, because every care situation is very different and it needs to be personalized. And then finally, we wanted to leverage white labeling. We knew with the partners that we were talking to, we wanted to offer white labeling so that we can have the strategic offer to them, but also expedite much quickly when new partners are coming, that we can demonstrate to them, okay, this is how it's going to look like. And that's what we've done, actually. We've been able to take the white labeling approach that Ming helped us with, and we were able to actually win new partners with that. So these were the three main challenges that we had, and Ming helped us on. And now I kind of want to shift and hand over to Miles, who's going to walk you through that entire redesign process as well as the AI journey.
Cheers. Thanks, Shilu. Great. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you about the design process. And it really took place in two major phases. First was proof of concept. It's important to think back 1 year ago where we were in AI, in the conversation around the role of design in AI. It was really nascent. We were really at the beginning, just starting to see different articles, starting to see different talks, but we didn't really know, right? Are we just going into a world of chatbots forever? Or is there something more that's going to come of this? And so because of that, we needed a parallel track, both in a technical exploration, but also in an experience exploration, before we could really get down to business and get into an agile production mode. And so we really just started with this question of, what would a Gen AI first caretaking experience look like, right? What if, Gen AI always existed, then what should care look like? And that was kind of the first thing that sparked our interest internally, to have discussions, start to sketch, start to come up with different plays on interactive chats and different ideas. And that's how we kind of started the conversation with Nui. And here's a little diagram of how this process looked like. So it was over 6 weeks. We started with around 30 ideas, kind of really broad visions, broad strokes of what could be, what might be, without any kind of technical limitations, right? So just blue sky thinking in that sense. And then we started to hammer these ideas into prototypes. And at the same time, our data science partners started to work on a technical prototype. So at this point, we're kind of in parallel, but there's still a little of talking going back and forth, right? You can ask the data scientist for a little bit of advice. Hey, is this reasonable? Is this feasible, etc.? And so we prototyped in 2 rounds, both with internal testing and then testing with users. And then we had a deep dive feasibility review where we kind of fused the learnings from the data science team and from the design team to come up with a shared vision. I want to talk a bit about ideation. I do think this has gotten easier than it was a year ago, because there are more examples of ways that AI is being used inside of products and services. But one thing that we recognized from the beginning, and this is of course important for Nui, but I think it's very relevant for any use case involving AI, is trust building, right? It's a really unknown and at times unpredictable, untraceable technology. And so we have to start with that. And what we did was create this kind of continuum from activating the experience, putting in input, processing it, having an output, and exiting, and then started to come up with different design qualities that might be relevant. So does the user activate the AI in the foreground or in the background? Or what's the formality of how the model talks to the user? What's the mood? How do we deal with latency? How do we deal with citations? So these are all just kind of open questions. And then we picked different ones as combinations, created sketches, and then we moved up this fidelity level as we went. So asking questions like, how might we contextualize these outputs to ensure that users understand how that was generated, that they trust what came out of it. And so we ended up with 3 concepts at the beginning. One was a traditional AI chat, right? We've seen it. We had seen it being successful with ChatGPT. We started to see it from very big players. We felt comfortable we could provide value in this certain way. The second was this idea of an AI view builder. So could we build views on the fly based on a query from a user? I think nowadays this is starting to be called generative UI, but we didn't know that at the time. So this is how we described it. And finally is this idea of an invisible assistant. As Shilu mentioned, the users are they're not necessarily digital natives. So there was this idea, maybe the user doesn't really need to be actively involved with the AI. Maybe they don't even need to hear the word AI. Maybe we could just monitor usage and create opportunities for insights and just focus on creating that next key action for them and make their experience very simple, very intuitive. And so after the user testing, after the collaboration with data science, we came up with an approach that we wanted to use to set the foundation. And that's really bringing in a profile for the senior that's being taken care of, the person being taken care of, that we can use to augment our queries. We can use it as a data source to create context for the model, to give then a highly personalized and accurate answer, and also to use the chat as a tool of navigation, not as necessarily as a tool of conversation. So that means that we want the user to have brief interactions and then quickly get moved into one of the many valuable features or content areas of the NUI application. And so I think the main takeaway here is, this parallel prototyping is really important because we need to both assess the performance of the model and we need to assess the interaction of the model. What's happening, how is it happening, and what's the feasibility? And then we also need to think about how should these tools change, right? So it may be that we're waiting for Figma to do something new or Sketch to do something new, but as teams, we also need to figure out how are we going to get more efficient at this, because we cannot always build a clickable prototype and a technical prototype every time we want to test something. And one of the things I wanted to put up on the screen here is for any practitioners, designers that are interested, is we do now have a set of low-code prototyping tools that are really effective. So on the screen, you see a screenshot of Flowwise AI. I've used it. I was actually able to build the technical prototype that we originally built, actually just a few weeks ago using this. So I think we have to start to get ready for what is this going to mean? What's this role? Who will be involved? But this is, I think, going to be really important for us prototyping going forward. So that was the POC. We had now this idea, we had this vision, we were aligned, and then we needed to set some foundational elements. So Shilu already discussed the white labeling. And for us, we needed to approach this on 2 sides of the coin. So first, on the technical side, that we actually have the ability to deliver an interactive AI experience that can be white labeled. And so I won't walk you directly through our technical architecture, but we used a concept called retrieval augmented generation that's become very popular, that essentially allows you to have a content store of specific documents that you can draw from in order to provide answers to user queries. And you can have multiple of them. So you can have a content store for partner A, a content store for partner B. And then you can enrich your queries with the information outlined in this senior profile. And then you can also soft prompt the model for communication style for specific partner, or maybe the answer length or things of that nature. And so our kind of baseline architecture also needed to be prepared to deliver on this white label promise from the technical side, but also on the design side. And so we spent a lot of time actually rebuilding the design system, which was already quite robust, but we made the decision to bring it into Figma so that we had the opportunity to use Figma's new variables functionality. And this allowed us to implement very easy theming, allowed us to collaborate with front end to create a set of shared variables, a better shared language between design and development. And as Shilu said, this means that getting up and running with a new partner, a new theme, is faster than ever before. So I think what's important, just as you see, it took 3 different teams to make that thing happen, right? We needed the tech team to provide the appropriate architecture, the design team to provide the appropriate system and organization, and we needed the product team to provide the right definition of what it needs to do, what are the limitations, what are the partners asking for. And so I think it's really important when it comes to these topics, the lines between roles are starting to get much more blurry. But it's really important that these power dynamics, that no team dominates the other, because in this case, when we would have had design dominate, right, we maybe wouldn't have had the architecture that could scale. So this becomes really important to de-risking what you're trying to do. So now production. Let's have a look at some of the stuff that we redesigned. So of course, we worked on the homepage, was quite a high focus. And one of the things that we talked a lot about, and we were fortunate because Nui already, before we came, did a lot of research and talked to a lot of users on a regular basis, is we were aware that users were sometimes landing on the homepage and they weren't sure where to go. And so what we did is actually work on this idea of this next steps. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this Diner next to Schritten. This idea of these are the things that you need to do. You're here, and based on your situation, these are the things you should do. So trying to just ease this, even decision in the user's mind about where to get started. And then at the top, you see this input into the AI experience. What we also did, Shilu also showed you the features. It's a lot of features. Nui is a very powerful application, but what we also learned and what Nui learned in their research were that some users didn't find all of the features. Sometimes they said, oh, I wish Nui did this. And actually it was in the menu, they just didn't find it. And so what we tried to do was set up this idea of basically a primary level and a secondary level of features. And so in the primary level, we have these cards, and then we allow the user to add or remove items from the primary level to the secondary level and vice versa. We also worked on the navigation, bringing Nui's guide more to the center, as it's a very high value asset, has information around all aspects of caring. And also universal search was brought in from Nui. And then the assistant. So you saw some of the sketches, now you see the UI here. And there was a decision tree assistant in the application. So now we have this AI in the application. And what you will notice is we provide the answer, and then because we're using this retrieval augmented generation, which is going to fetch a document, because it fetches a specific document, we can provide a link to the source, so we know where it came from. This is aligned with this idea around building trust. And then we also can provide actions, as I said, around this idea of using the AI to create navigation into key value areas of the application. So in this case, navigating a user to a checklist. Some of the new experiences we added are things like budget management, which both from an interaction design level is highly complicated, but also from a business logic level. But this is really important, as Shilu said, 12 billion euros every year going unclaimed for caregivers that are completely pressed for time and resources. And so this was also a very high focus for us to get this delivered. And then care paths, you saw it on the home screen. This is this next steps. So we kind of allow the user to see the next steps, what they've completed and what they have left. And of course, continuous user testing and also quality assurance to make sure that we are delivering our features in an agile and research-driven way. And I think the takeaway here is that, you know, some things never change. So yeah, it's maybe an application with AI involved, but that doesn't mean that you can skip, you know, human-centered design, or that you can skip agile methodologies. It maybe means you have some other work at the beginning. It maybe means your collaboration is shifting a little bit, but you still have to do the details, detail work. And finally, looking ahead, excuse me. So Shilu showed you NUI 1.0. I've showed you a little bit about NUI 2.0. And now I would speak briefly about NUI 3.0. So what could NUI become? What is the vision? And Shilu also mentioned it already. It's around this hyper-personalization. It's around, you know, really providing these diverse caregivers that have diverse caring situations, diverse personal situations, to get the most out of NUI that they can, so that they get the right information at the right time based on their context and their objectives. And this is a really good use case for a large language model, because it's essentially, you know, we are trying to take a bunch of user journeys. We're trying to predict what a user journey should look like for that nth user, and make the experience smart and adaptive. And so some of the benefits you could, we hope to realize, and NUI hopes to realize, is really this, so scalable intelligence. There's new models coming out every day, right? So you have to stay up to date on what is possible, what is feasible, and how much it costs, which is very important. Now, personalizing these care paths. So we know that there's certain core pathways that a carer goes through. Shilu showed this care journey, becoming aware of the fact that you're going to become a carer, applying for benefits, and so on. But of course, there's nuances to this. So adding a level of personalization. Predictive assistance also was mentioned before. So can we go from a reactive, you know, space to a proactive space? Can we, you know, rather knock on the door and say, hey, this is the next thing for you, instead of you coming to ask, you know, what should I do next? Efficiency and automation. So continuing to try to push the application to streamline these bureaucratic processes, and keep trying to break these things down, make them simple, make them understandable. Artificial twins, so starting to really build out what the senior profile can be, and what can be predicted from it, what can be learned from it, maybe in a rather anonymized, aggregated way. And then finally, the long tail opportunity. So really addressing niche care needs. So often we're designing for, you know, 80% of our possible users, and we say, oh, there's no time, there's no budget for this 20% that has this special use case. And in this case, this is where a user flow that adapts would allow us to better address this. And I think that takes you pretty quickly through everything. And yeah, we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe you can stop screen sharing so we can see you. And to everybody who's watching us now live on LinkedIn, please, if you have questions to Shilu or Miles, or both of them, of course, post them to the event comments and we'll bring them in. Thanks to both of you for a quick run through of this super complex application. I don't know if everybody stayed on top of it because there's really so much to discover and so much to talk about. And as you said, it's a complex situation. So just to frame this a little bit, can you tell me a little bit about the basics? Like how long did you take for this project? What was the duration of the redesign?
So ultimately ended up being a year altogether, 9 months to a year. So in the beginning, we knew with one of our partners where we wanted to go, and we were looking for a partner like Ming to help us kind of get there. And so initially we were looking at different agencies and technology groups that could help us get there. Ming really blew us away with their pitch, and we realized that they could help us. We planned in 9 months. Of course, in many projects like this, you're always, adjusting from the time. But I have to say, in the time that we had, we were able to get a tremendous amount done in the short amount of time that we had.
And how did you decide that Ming was the right partner to go for?
They understood where we wanted to go from a strategic perspective. That was one. They brought in the new innovation and how we can use the AI. We definitely wanted to go the route of personalization and using, we were using algorithms in the past, and that helped convince us that, to go the AI route, to be able to provide like personalized individual guidance to our users. So that's kind of one of the points that kind of stood out for us. The other is that they understood our target audience very well. They have a very design thinking approach, which I appreciate very much, which strategically helps to understand what you need to do to deliver at the end of the day. So they came to us and they presented us our personas that we knew very well. And in a very short amount of time, they were able to demonstrate that, and that convinced us, okay, you understand what's going on for our caregivers, their pain points, the market, trending technologies. And so there was a clear match that they could help us strategically take that leap forward.
Sounds like a great preparation, Miles, from your side of your company, and probably knowledge in the sector as well. Just last question on how to frame such a partnership in a successful way, because I think that's the key. And of course, development, especially in digital products, and you were also saying, okay, AI, so we have to go into a new field. You can't just like say we're going from A to B, this is budget X and this is the timing. You have to a little bit feel forward. So how did you manage this in a way also iterative process, in a way to stay within your expectations as a client and the possibilities of the agency without blowing the budget and time frame? Anything you can share about this?
Yeah, I can share, and maybe Miles can jump in on that. So for us, it was important that when we're developing the AI, that it's relevant for the caregiver. So like a lot of AI, it can be very broad, giving you broad answers. And we wanted to make sure that we're giving the right information to the caregivers and not leading them astray. That was really important for us. So in a very iterative approach, from a technical perspective, but also an expertise perspective, we had to bring those both worlds together. So we had care experts on our side who was really working with the developers to kind of test and validate that the answers were right, in fact, right. In the beginning, just for a lesson learned, they weren't. And that was important for us to make sure that the quality of answers is up to par. So there was a lot of kind of iteration going in that direction. We started with the AI with 2 trusted sources, and we thought that the accuracy rate would go up because of it. But in fact, it wasn't the case. And that was something new for us also from new technology that we had to learn, and to actually expand on that and open up and be a little bit broader, that would increase the accuracy. And so those were all lessons learned that we had to go through. And it was important for us to go through that and then ensure that to our partners that we're going to deliver a good level of quality in terms of answers and not lead people astray, because these are big brands that we're working with. And we want to make sure that we're delivering what we're promising, not only to the brands, but to the caregivers out there, because we want to help them at the end of the day and not lead them astray. Miles wants to add to that.
No, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I don't want to press too much on internals, but of course, like feeling forward into the project and negotiation budgets, either internally in the company or with stakeholders, as you said, Shilu, and from the agency side to staying also within budget and while you're developing is really a hairy situation. So it's important, I think, to have a lot of trust there and base your work on facts. Just to wrap up the context of where your space is at. In terms of the market of Nui Care, do actually the caregivers or end clients pay for the app? So what's the business model? How does it work?
So right now, the end user does not pay for the app. So depending on whatever partner they're going with, the partner is essentially paying for that subscription at the end of the day, because we want to make it available to the end user in the easiest or the best way possible. We did explore in the very beginning to go the route of DPAS, so digital, like there's DGAS in Germany, which is digitale Gesundheits applications, so to say. They have the same thing in the Pflege, so in the care. We did look at that, but there are a lot of limitations in terms of, you know, validating with studies, and for a startup, you know, that would take too long in order for us to get us in the market. So that was the first area that we were exploring as a reimbursement opportunity. We're still looking at that for the future. And then we realized, okay, with partners, they're also interested to bring this as a value add to their end customer, and they are willing also to make that investment. And so that's our business model, is really to go with our partners. They're paying a particular fee for each of the licenses, and that's basically how we're going with that. And you know, with the white labeling, we're giving them the advantage that they're going to market quicker. They have lower expenses in terms of development and maintenance at the end of the day, and they're able to provide something that's also customized, so we can customize certain things for our partners, and then they can differentiate against others in their market.
Understood. Your B2B service and your partners are probably insurance companies and so on, and maybe public and private. Turning to users, because we've got a couple of questions coming up actually. Jonathan, who's a senior product designer, first of all says thanks for a great presentation, and has a question about actually user research interviews, maybe towards you, Miles. Where did you conduct them, in person or remotely, and did you face any challenges at this stage, and which?
Yeah, so we conducted the sessions online. It's video call. Actually, they were all in German, so actually that was probably the biggest challenge for me. So we had, of course, German speakers on our team that could meet everyone. I think the biggest challenge is mobile applications testing on a desktop, on a shared screen, is always a little bit risky. So we did discuss trying to bring in folks, but again, as Shilu said, the caregivers are super busy. It was always really hard to get them. Sometimes they didn't show up. We had to make sure to schedule extra interviews. And so in that case, to be honest, we made also intuitive decisions. Sometimes we might say the user said they don't notice that they can swipe this left to right. And we would say, you know what, we think this is due to the fact that they're, you know, on a laptop screen swiping a mobile screen. We can move on with this. We validate it's okay. So I think we had to use a bit of intuition there.
And any certain user research methods you use, or what? How did you scale this process?
No specific methods. We did not do, let's say, interviews to create the personas. These were conducted by Nui before we joined. So our sessions were all around user testing.
Right. So you said for the users, time is of the essence. They're pretty overworked, powered by the situation very often, coming from different sides, not just for the care, the person they have to care about, but also their lives, their work, their family. So what did you mainly focus on? What was like the point of entry to alleviate this bottleneck for people?
So I think that's where the AI is coming in. And I think this is where, we're going to focus a lot on and improve moving forward. So for us, the AI is a great starting point for them, and really addressing their needs first on, like what is the most pressing need that they have. They can go into the AI and even start a conversation about that. They can explain their current situation, and the AI would be able to answer back, okay, well, you need to think about applying for these particular care benefits, for instance, and then getting those guided steps on, okay, here are the different care benefits that you're eligible for, and here in the app, you can actually even apply for them. And then after you've applied, you can actually track the budget. So that's how we're really trying to minimize their time to have to kind of explore into the app. And this is where we want to go with the AI. Right now, we're at a very initial stage, but that's where we kind of want to go in this direction, so that they can just jump in, explain their situation, then get the guidance to know where to go next. The other is, as Miles mentioned, our care plan. So right now we have a very general care plan or steps that people can take, but we want to personalize that. So ask them like maybe 5 simple questions, and from those 5 simple questions, create individual care paths or care plans for each person, because every situation is different, and then they have their steps that they can go through. So that's how we want to move forward with that, so they're not having to look and see, okay, what are the features that are beneficial for me. We don't want them to think about features. We want them to think about, okay, what is it that I need to think about to do next to make my situation better.
So basically, you created a user journey based on your experience of the caregiving situation, and now you're working on creating several user journeys and giving possibly by prompts and questions, giving people the opportunities to deviate into different kinds of this user journey, right?
Yeah. Right, exactly. And with our care experts, they know where they are in their care journey and what they would need. So what we're doing right now is we have a couple of care experts in our team. We've gone through and we went through the different scenarios or the different journeys that people could possibly take. And now identifying, okay, what are the different next steps, or what are the different sources that would be beneficial for them? So being proactive and saying, okay, you've answered these 5 questions, so you're in this scenario, and we will offer you all the support that you need, and guide them really step by step until they maybe go to the next journey of the entire journey.
Right, so that answers my question about how to give guidance in the user experience for people, and this is on several levels, by anticipating what their needs might be, the next ones, and then giving them suggestions. And then, of course, also actual human partners, experts who can or are accessible. My question is, so why a chat interface at this stage? Why not, for instance, a conversational UI? Because it could be even easier for people to talk with the LLM. Miles, right? Why this decision?
Yeah. So one is technology complexity. So a year ago, that was pretty expensive. We were seeing voice to text, text to voice models coming out from Amazon at that time. So we needed to control for that. I think a bit related to the question you asked earlier from the agency perspective, if the client or the RFP comes out, it says we want, this, it's always risky to say, well, I'd like to give you something completely different. So we had to kind of compartmentalize this POC to not be too budget intensive, so that we could kind of open the door and set the stage for what we saw, what we think the AI can be in for NUI. And so we kind of had to be realistic about what we could achieve in that 6-week period.
And maybe adding to that, did you on purpose limit the scope of the LLM? So can users ask the chatbot anything, or is it just questions regarding the situation of caregiving?
We limited it because we didn't want to, put them on a track where we cannot guarantee. So it's important for us that we're providing care-related information. So if a user is asking a non-care related question, then we say that we tell them that we can only answer care related questions if we could not answer their question. And if they need more support, then they can chat, or they can even call one of our care experts for further guidance.
Thank you. I have a question from Alexander Meinstein. He's also saying thanks for a great presentation, and has a question regarding personal data, probably also privacy. So how do they deal with personal data regarding AI support? And related to that, do you have any kind of memory built in so that you can always access information already mentioned and build on it accordingly to the next session or next question? So
Yes.
first on personal data and AI support.
Yeah, so in terms of the personal data, we're using the known AIs out there that and with that, the databases are unknown for us. And so before anyone starts a chat, we actually explain that to them. We explain that to them that the data is not residing in our databases or anything like that, that they should be careful, just like with ChatGPT. They give also kind of like a warning we do as well. So that they know what is happening with their private data.
Okay, so this is about building trust, where the information, the data comes from. You also mentioned there is a repository of official documentation and information that the app accesses, and this is also explained. So there is also another element of trust. The other part of Alexander's question was, is there a kind of memory built in so you can always access maybe a question that you already asked? That's the way I understand his question, and build on it accordingly on your next step?
Yeah, so it's context driven. So if you're asking a particular question, it understands and knows what you've just asked and will build on it. So if you're asking a particular question about a care benefit and then a follow-up question to that, it will know that you're asking in context to the question previously about like a care benefit. So let's say if they're asking about a care benefit when I need to take time off, or that I have somebody to replace me as a caregiver, then I could ask how much financial support I can get. It will know that and then answer based on that context.
And while the app is running now, it's being used, do you do regular quality checks on the quality of the responses? And maybe do you detect in some way where people get stuck? And so in order that you can alleviate this?
Yes, so we have a couple of different mechanisms. So we have the thumbs up, thumbs down approach, very similar to what you're seeing in OpenAI. And we're gauging that. We also can gauge the questions and answers that are being that are coming in, and proofing those over time. We're looking at the thumbs down and looking at that data and seeing, okay, what wasn't right there, and continuously improving that. So working with our developers to make sure that the answers are giving more accurate answers to those questions.
Which of course helps to continuously build the quality of the LLM and the quality of the answers. Alexander has followed up on his question. He wants to know details. So how long will the system, the LLM, remember answers that you can then build up on your next query? for instance?
So it saves the conversation. So the conversation is saved there until the user actually has to renew it. So there's a button in the app that when you want to ask a new question, then you click on that and then you have a new topic. But the history is saved, and it's saved there in the memory, and then it can always pick up based on that history until the user refreshes it.
So, question to you, Miles. When you trained the LLM, what kind of data did they employ? So which sources did you use? And is there any help for users who first access the app, like how to get on board, like for instance, exemplary prompts or questions that they can start from?
Yeah, so I preface that I'm not a data scientist, but yeah, the model itself is not trained. So with the architecture we have, we're essentially making a request to the model to say, hey, please go look at these documents. And we make this request very quickly because we use a vectorized database. So we look for similarity, we find the document, and then we pull the document out, we look at the question, and then we provide a summary of this. So there's no training involved in this method. And then when it comes to, let's say, refining the answer, we can do that through soft prompting. So things like saying, please answer nicely, or please answer concisely, or format the answer in this certain way. So that's the approach there. And sorry, what was the second question?
So when people start
yes, sorry.
on the app, so how do you support them in let's say onboarding, starting to use the LLM the way it's supposed to help them?
Mm-hmm. So at the present, there's no specific onboarding for the feature. We've iterated internally on some different topics, some animations, some different interaction designs, some prompts, but I can say they're in the roadmap.
And what do you find are the pitfalls when you design for, let's say, now it's a chat-based LLM. So what are the challenges? What do you find at the moment the most tricky situation?
I think it's very difficult to get in your user's shoes. I mean, for me to be empathetic to the user and look at, let's say, 3 buttons. Okay, I'm a caregiver, I should pick one of 3 buttons. It's really like different to look at the blank input field and think, okay, I'm a caregiver, what's my problem? I think kind of that gives for me like a general designer's anxiety because you lose some control, and without the ability for us to easily have these LLM-based prototyping tools for designers, we're kind of having to split our brains a little bit, first to do interaction and then later to do validation of inputs and outputs. And so right now, this, I hope to see with these low-code prototypes that this comes back together, because I feel we get these like sparse learnings and we keep trying to pull them together. And to be honest, sometimes it works well and you say, yeah, I totally see it, the connection. And sometimes you're a bit lost. And like I said, you have to then rely on experience and instincts instead of research, which is not how we all want to work. Still useful, but not how we all want to work.
And of course, it's a work in progress. So probably also the prototyping and the building tools will come together as also the market would somehow shape up, of course, with the companies who provide the LLMs and so on. Let me see a last question from Sai. I like your approach to NuiCare. My question is, what accessibility issues have you seen while designing, and how did you overcome them? Good question. Especially maybe related to your diverse user base, right? Because younger people, older people, people in different, maybe from different educational backgrounds. So it's really pretty broad base, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would hand this over to Miles because he would be able to answer that better than I can in terms of what we have. But I definitely have to say that that's something that we are continuously working on with accessibility. We want to make sure that, especially in the care environment, you're dealing with a lot of people with certain issues there, and we want to get there, and we are planning a roadmap so that we can address those issues. So I think
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, so we didn't explicitly run into specific problems. I think we were lucky because we rebuilt the whole set of components in new program, and so we were able to review a lot of components, contrast, font size, etc., and flag certain things. Some things were, let's say, easier to fix immediately than others. So we still have areas of, let's say, classical design accessibility challenges around contrast or things like this. And I think accessibility, when it comes to this long tail topic we talked about, it's maybe for me stands more as inclusivity about the long tail. It's a little bit two different parts of the same larger thing. But I think that's what a customized experience really will bring, is it really will let you meet all of your users where they are and where their context then is. So
Inclusivity in the long tail, what do you mean by this? In terms of the next iterations of the product?
Yeah, in terms of the next iterations of the product. So that that right now, right, we can only interview so many people. There are caregivers that are maybe in even more extreme situations that would never have time for an interview, that are probably key to find and to discuss, right? And so what the idea is, if we could create something more flexible, something, a model that can predict, then we would have, we could start to reach them more effectively without needing to find them and, use their time. It doesn't mean that we can avoid doing research. It actually means we have to do more research in order to train the model on that. But I think that's just to clarify.
You're right. It sounds really intuitive. That's what design is supposed to be. And this is actually also, I think, the big promise of these technologies. If you mentioned generative user interfaces that build up according to the information you request, or like an invisible assistant that actually predicts what you're going to need and helps you along. This is like maybe the holy grail of accessibility and inclusiveness, because you need less and less screens, text, etc., all these barriers that we have, and screens and so on, information.
And multi-modals, right? So text, voice, so you can immediately translate this interface to voice, immediately translate it to different modes now become more easily changeable, both in terms of like being able to write code on the fly automatically and to change interface on the fly from the model. So sorry, I'm really excited about that topic. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, we all are, and it's still an ongoing trip. So there is so much more to be discovered, and it really comes up on a monthly basis almost. So there's really a lot, and it's also a tricky situation for designers at this time. So there is actually a question from Asdar, which is very, very broad, very open, and but somehow relates to it. He says he's a product designer in a startup. How can he improve his design skills, as they have invested a lot in one product? I mean, it's a very broad question. I don't know if you can think of something, Miles, maybe from your own background, maybe story.
So, I mean, I'm in an agency setting. so things change a lot, and that has limitations also to your development. But I am a strong believer in building products yourself, whether that's with friends, whether that's problems you see, like Marcus saw with his parents and decided to, and Chris to start Nui. Really, that's for me the best way, you know, just get your hands dirty. And, you know, I in the pandemic was having trouble staying in contact with my family. And so I built a mobile application to send me reminders, and it's in the App Store, and I learned how to do that. And that was like, you know, something in my control at my pace without the pressures of budgets, billing, invoices, etc. And so I think just getting involved in something really small, these products that just do one thing well, and I think that's also when you can have a lot of joy in design. Yeah.
And specifically, I don't know if that you can answer to this, but his perspective is from a product designer, and he asks about which design skills would be most key to him.
Which design skills? Probably I would suggest to read a little bit into product, actually, and into service design, because we're going to get a lot more tools that do hardcore production for us. I'm not saying it's going to replace things. I'm not saying it can take away some of the really incredible designs that people make, but we're going to move, I think, further towards service design, all of us. And service definition. And that's something that a lot of product people are very good at, but also a whole area of design with, you know, incredible experts over the last 30 years, you know, refining. So, I mean, I know myself, I spend a lot of time reading about service design and trying to get closer to the business needs, and like, how close can I get to like hearing a business or a CEO or a leader describe a problem, and how quickly can I map that problem into a diagram. And I think that's going to be the type of inputs that these LLMs are going to take, and then they're going to make applications. You know, they're going to start to translate business logic to products. So I think if you can do that, you'll be in good shape. It's not easy, right? That's why I'm working on it.
And to add to that, as a product person, really, I would also say service design. I've worked with a lot of designers in service design in my last jobs, and from a business perspective, it's like really integral, that exercise alone, really mapping out the entire journeys from different levels, really crystallizes what is necessary, and making also strategic decisions based on that. So not just from a design perspective, but also from a business perspective, it really has been an excellent tool to be you know, user-centric in making strategic decisions, and then moving over to really designing the right thing. So knowing what to design is first, and then designing it right is the other perspective. And so service design, I totally agree with Miles on that.
Thanks for this. That's a new one, new old one. User research has been also named very often, because if you design for something that's still under development, and with technologies that are evolving, understanding what people actually need and where they struggle is also key. But then, as you say, you need to bring this into a larger perspective, into a bit more like a system and an overview, and frame this right for people who will make the decisions, whether internally or your clients. Last questions from my side, maybe an inward looking question for me. What did winning the award mean to you? Did it help you? Will it help you? What do you think?
Well, definitely for us, we're a startup, you know, and knowing that a startup is winning this has helped us a lot, because as I said in the beginning, to reach and to serve our end user, which is caregivers, UX is so crucial. It's crucial in terms of getting them the right guidance that they need, and having the right UX with the right innovation helps get us there. And so winning this award has really helped us realize that this is really important at the end of the day, and confirmed that we're going in that right direction. So it has been a tremendous like pat on the back for all of us together, NUI and Ming Labs together, that we've achieved this.
Yeah, I can agree. I think design is a super vulnerable field. You mostly walk into the room to hear people say what they don't like about your work. And that's okay, and can be really stimulating. But I think it was nice to maybe get news and feel a bit validated from a lot of those hard days. And I think it also forged a different type of partnership between us and NUI. Somehow it created this something that feels long-term. We've not signed any long-term contracts, but it somehow feels long-term. It feels somehow much more special, much more connected. So I think that was really valuable for us.
Oh, it really opens my heart to hear you talk about this. This is what we, of course, aim at with this competition. It's about giving you validation, not only to the teams and the hard work you put in, but also from the side of business and industry experts and design experts, actually expressing what the value of design is and what of the value of the work of design is, but also then in the end product, why is it relevant? So congratulations on winning the product award in the UX Design Awards, and thank you so much for sharing in-depth insights into such a complex product, and having this great talk together. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did.